It comes around once a stage and changes the entire complexion of the league in one weekend. Europe and Oceania have already been visited by it, and now it's NA's turn. 3 straight days of games that can flip a major's hopes upside down for better or worse, and when the dust settles, 3 teams will be expelled from Stage 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the North American League. I'm Caliber Jacob Anderson alongside Davide Foxe Bucci and Gabriel Laxing Miralez. Gentlemen, welcome to Super Week.
I'm excited.
We're already here.
I'm excited. Yeah, I know. It feels like just yesterday we were coming in here for the first week, and now, I used to feel the same as a player, you know. It's always like a big mountain when you look at it, but once you're on the other side, it just goes so fast. You just wish there was more games.
And it's do or die for some of these teams. Like, you need to get your points here. There are some teams that do have days off that we do know going, so they only have 2 days in this Super Week. So, I mean, this week is it, really.
I want to check standings real quick just because this has already been a tumultuous stage thus far, so we'll see how everything lines up after 6 days of play. Sonics are not playing today. However, they have already locked themselves into a playoff spot. They're the first team to do so at a minimum threshold of 14 points. It's not to say that every team, if they were to get to 14 points, has it locked down, but at this point, Sonics have already crossed the threshold and they're in. Everyone else is still trying to get to top 6.
Yeah, it's been pretty competitive, and it's pretty exciting because no one team is just smoking everybody out the gate. Everybody has been pretty back and forth, and it's really nice to see that even though there's 2 teams that are made it to playoffs, there's still so much that could happen, so much that can shift within that middle pact of teams that you don't even know how the standings are going to look at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, to touch up even what you said, when you look at just how close everyone is relatively in points, I mean, it can really be shaken up just by 2 games, let alone you get a chance to play 3 games for that matter. I mean, we could definitely see this standing really shift, but I do like that it is so close, that there just isn't one factor of just one team just getting dominated versus the rest. Like, it's really even across the board.
I think a lot of these picks or the places that they're currently are at line up decently well with what we thought coming into the stage, but we also did power rankings before the stage began, not necessarily as a predictive measure of where teams were going to end up when the stage was done, but just to see where they're at in week 1 and then compare that to where we're at in week 3. So Laxing, I just want to see where your power rankings lined up to where they're at right now. I'm kind of curious
too, where mine's going to look like. So yeah, I mean, you know, there's only one that stayed the same. That was obviously Wildcard being in 7th place. But, I mean, you know, I was just going off of what I saw last stage, what currently happened at the last major. And truthfully, it's not that surprising seeing Sonics obviously being at the top. They've been looking the best. Even for Dark Zero, I had them at 5th. But, again, they've been gone to show that Nafe isn't, you know, he can IGL. He can do what needs to be done. Kobe Lax performing. All of them doing extremely well. Space Station flipped to, you know, 3rd instead of a 2nd. So that's on me. But C9 Beast Coast, obviously, I had them at 1st. They're sitting 4th right now. Again, there's still 3 play days left, so this again could very well change in some of these areas. But again, I mean, it's not surprising to see where some things are versus what I thought they might be.
I think mostly it's like the bottom 3 was about the same couple of teams. The top 3 to maybe the top 4 was around the same, and the only real outlier for you was just C9BC. You had it number 1. They currently sit at number 4. Lax, I'm curious. Sorry, Fox. I want to see how yours one's lined up too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it best. I think the bottom 3 was kind of expected. Top 3 makes sense. I think the middle ones are definitely the most, like Luminosity and
that M80 pick though.
Luminosity and M80. Yeah, unfortunately for me, M80 isn't doing too hot, and I did have them ranked number 1. But as for the top 3, top 4, it is pretty much all the same. I had SQ, I had DZ playing high, I had Lowe's, I had OXG. You know, I predicted the OXG fall off this stage after getting rid of Dream.
You did.
I just didn't expect it to be at this mass. But, you know, I'm pretty proud of what it could be. And then hopefully, you know, we see this next couple of days just kind of shape up. And it'd be funny if, like, one of us just gets all of them right or something crazy.
To be fair, yours is very close. I mean, I'm pretty impressed. I didn't see the vision from the Sonics or DZ that you saw earlier because I had them in 4th, 5th. So the fact that they're 1st and 2nd right now.
You know what I'm really excited? I'm really excited to see the prediction percentage at the end of the stage because I think I've only gotten, like, 4 games wrong.
I'm curious,
I don't think you've gotten that many wrong. I think you've probably gotten, like, 2 wrong, and I've probably gotten, like, three wrong.
Maybe. I don't know.
You've only gotten 1 wrong.
You see how much more of a game it becomes when we hide percentages from you guys and we have no idea until a stage is over?
Well, to be fair, I mean, this stage has been extremely competitive. A lot of these games that you wouldn't think maybe we're going to go one way over the other. I mean, it's like I said, I'm just glad regardless, like whether I'm in the lowest percentage or you're in the lowest, that the stage has been very competitive across the board.
There's a couple teams I think were kind of shoo-ins for playoffs. Teams like Sonics, DZ, Space Station, C9BC. We at least figured top 6 was a possibility. But then for power rankings and then what's on the board right now, it's a matter of 6th place, I think, for me, that's the most interesting. Because Wildcard were in that conversation for a bit. Luminosity kind of was, but we weren't sure what they were going to be like when they came back from their first LAN. Were Los going to be better? We didn't think OXG was going to be down here. So the most interesting storyline for this stage is just who ends up in 6th for me.
Yeah, that's definitely the big factor here because we've touched up on it already. Just because you secure yourself into playoffs or even secure yourself in that 1st and 2nd spot where you get to sit pretty, that does not guarantee you a spot in Montreal. So it's more so the fact you just need to clench that playoff spot to allow yourself that ability. Whereas, yeah, that 6th place spot where Luminosity is sitting, that's the real contention point where these bottom teams need to be passing that threshold and getting above Luminosity, or for Luminosity's sake, pushing that lead higher since they're at the bottom. They can ultimately decide where that, equilibrium is or that balance of points.
And all the teams at the bottom, even OXG, they play a full 3 games this week, so all the teams at the bottom can still jump up into playoffs. And if anything has
Super Week, baby, that's going to be crazy.
If anything's told you from qualifiers, even teams that are in 1st could not make the major. Teams that just scrape by and get 6 can make the major. It really depends on the playoffs, on the best of 3s. Now it's just a limit testing, but if you're a team at the bottom, you need to make sure you start at some point. If you haven't started any week this week, you want to start in this Hell Week so that you can just get as many points as you possibly can.
Yeah, dreams can be made or crushed in the Super Week, which is why it's so much fun for us to sit back and watch, and why I'm sure it's hell for a lot of players in lobby. Sonics do not play today specifically. They have 2 more games tomorrow and on Friday, but they've already got playoffs locked down, which means this is the chance everybody else has to get as many points as possible before the amount of games that they have left to play start really running out.
And obviously the game of the day, everyone can anticipate C9BC versus SSG. And as a viewer, you may look at the rest of the games and just think, oh, it might be really one-sided. But like we said today, the pressure is on Los, OXG, and Wildcard to start getting some points. So some teams actually thrive in that chaos. Some teams perform out. And so I actually think a lot of these games will be hopefully a lot closer leading up to that final best of the final best match of the day.
I mean, truthfully, I'm really excited for the Dark Zero Oxygen game. Not to talk bad about Oxygen, because again, they've been very competitive. They just haven't been able to get their foot in the door of clenching a win. But I think if we go throughout history of versing Dark Zero and everything like that, this Dark Zero is entirely different. They're taking gunfights. They are being faster, and that does play into Oxygen's favor. They like gunfights. They like playing into that meta. So this will be the one time where I do see Oxygen really coming through and getting a win here. But it's, again, we got to wait until see that happens. But even for that LG wildcard game, we did the math ourselves. Jesse even confirmed it. If wildcard doesn't get a point today, whether that's not time, but pushing OT or just even getting a 3 points, they're out.
Yeah, because they only play 2 games this week. They have to take a seat back. So if they don't win against LG is currently 6th place team. They don't win against LG, it would be lights out for wildcard.
Every single game today has playoff elimination or qualification potential, except our first one. M80 and Los are going to kick us off on day number 7. One of them currently sits around 4th or 5th, still looking to hold on to whatever position that they currently have. The other isn't even in playoff picture, but still play 3 games over the course of Super Week, so both teams have an equal opportunity, in some cases, to make it to playoffs.
Yeah, again, the pressure is more on Los here because M80 still is sitting above them. They're in the playoffs so far as of right now, but Los, they need these points desperately, and especially just to prove to themselves with the roster changes that they made, everything they've done for this stage, that it is paying off, that they aren't finding themselves again in an LCQ, and then hopefully, just don't have to go down that path.
Yeah, although I agree it's on Los' shoulders to get some points, I feel like M80 has to be stressing a little bit because they haven't looked as hot as they did in week 1. It's still been an inconsistent matchup. Even their win against OXG last week wasn't that impressive to say, so they want to work on that consistency in this last final week because the M80 that we all expected, I had them first and leader in the rankings.
Right.
That's not what we're seeing so far.
They also only have 2 games they have to play this week, which is going to make things infinitely more difficult. They've already had their bye, and they just came off a loss to Space Station on Bank last Friday. They weren't able to get any wins on attack. They were completely suffocated, and that's not the first time we've seen them have some really significant attacking struggles where we thought them bringing in a player like Hyper might be able to help make things easier. It turns out it's not made things any easier than they were when they came into the stage.
Yeah, I mean, M80, like you said, since bringing in Hyper, when it comes to the kill metrics, they are doing very well. Everybody on the team's performing very well, and in that first week, we got to see it. But I think the biggest issue comes down to the maps. I mean, if you look at the preparation M80's putting outside of the game, there's a clear, obvious distinction into why they're losing these games. You see, the games that they won are all on Clubhouse, and the games that they've lost, the first two were on Labs, and the last one against SSG was on Bank. And unfortunately for M80, I think it really comes down to losing these big maps. Why are they going to these big maps? They said it was coming down to what practice was looking like and feeling the vibes of the energy of the map that they want to go to. But these big maps, there's a clear, distinct issue. It's the fact that they can't connect these amazing gun fraggers together. And this is one of the rounds versus SSG where everybody on M80 is so split up. They don't really have an understanding of what the execute is. It's all about going for this back garage vault take. But every single fight here, SSG fights them head on. Benja goes for a nice 1v1 that M80 had info on, and Spoid still loses. Citizen, instant response. I'm going to try to get a pick down the red hatch. He goes down. And then you just see an amass of 1v1 takes that don't go in any of M80's favor. They just keep hemorrhaging these kills, constantly trying to bring back the lost advantage in a way to win the round. And I think when you play maps like Clubhouse, you don't see that happening because it's so close together that M80 has to forcefully play off of each other. But when it comes to a big map, unfortunately for them, they're too split up and they're spread too thin. If they lose those ones, it doesn't look good for M80.
Again, obviously getting a win and a win no matter what is important, but it's important to take into account the wins that they are getting, even if it being on Clubhouse, and we talk about those fundamentals that they lack or that they do have in that area. You know, you look at both the games, they won an 8-6, they won a 7-4, they lost a 6-8, they lost a 3-7, won a 7-5, and it then lost a 3-7. It more goes to show that, you know, it's not just on Cameraman as being the IGL setting his team up for success, but it comes down to each one of those players individually be able to read those 1v1s, maybe to double up, maybe to take some position and then rotate that other person and be able to play off together, but that's just not what we're seeing. So we need to see that going forward into these games.
Yeah, and the big maps, I think it's really coming down to their map picks, because when they play Clubhouse, it's a lot better because they're forced to play off of each other. These big maps are just based too big, and M80 is not isolating 1v1s. They're trying to just take their own 1v1s. And unfortunately, there's so many teams right now that are so competitive when it comes to the gunfight department that it's not going to work well. So I'd really like to see M80 focus on those maps, especially today.
Yeah, they have this match that they kind of have to win against Los because they don't have a game that they play tomorrow, and then they'll go ahead and play on Friday against Dark Zero. So Los are in prime position to spoil the party and get a couple of points themselves because, again, their only win of the stage has come over a team that still has yet to get any wins. But they played wildcard on Chalet back on Friday. We knew that their defenses were the weak point, and again, their Achilles heel being Chalet just proved that their defenses still have so much left to be desired.
And again, what's interesting about Los is they are leading the league right now in the attack win rate percentage.
They're the best.
That's insane.
They're the best attacking team.
Second worst team. Like that is an insane statistic, only because in this meta right now, as we see across all regions, defensive is the most successful side. So the fact that you are being successful on the hardest side and you are lacking on the easiest side, that's insane to me. But it just goes into like the broad spectrum of this team that we've highlighted as, you know what, this team looks better than what we've seen last stage. But realistically and statistically speaking, they are actually performing worse, which that's crazy to think about. So here you see stage one. This is just side swaps and where they find themselves. They just simply cannot find themselves in a winning situation. Similar to now we go into stage two. Again, you see this graph, you see it even out in terms of like balance, but then here it gets worse. Again, this isn't by a huge margin, but with how much we've talked about this team, with the new iteration of the roster, they are performing worse. And again, they cannot find their footing on either attack or defense of closing out these games, closing out these rounds. And again, it just plays into the factors. This team is already getting over a huge hurdle of finding success on attack, but they just are not doing it on the defensive end.
It's crazy how they're a complete different analog for Dark Zero. Dark Zero, phenomenal team on attack, not very good. Sorry, phenomenal team on defense, not good on attack. One of the top two teams in the league currently. Los great at attack, terrible at defense, bottom two in the league currently. It's weird how for some reason, I think you kind of have to win defense in this meta to have a chance.
Defense is how you win the games. I mean, at the end of the day, every team will say if you get a couple attack rounds, you know that you're going to be safe on the defensive side.
Yeah, and I mean, even in compare stats, not only just of what they look like for stage, but just from their one roster to the next. I mean, I got stage one's roster, and when you look at this at overall performance, I mean, again, they were at the bottom of the barrel, so these stats aren't going to be like anything too impressive or crazy. If anything, they're going to be very lackluster. But obviously, they removed 2 players, they removed 2 rookies, and now if you look at stage Stage 2, and again, this is what we highlighted about this roster, is they brought on experienced players of Wizard, of Arthur, but obviously then, again, these stats aren't anything crazy. There's nothing too nifty to point out, but
it still kind of looks like they're performing better this stage, though.
They are, but the fact is there's still 3 games left, so they can technically perform better, but at the same time, kind of with how it's looking, the trajectory of that looks like they could also balance out and still find themselves in the exact same spot that they saw themselves last stage.
Even though they aren't doing too great, they did get a win earlier on week 2 instead of week 4.
True.
And for Los, in my opinion, even though the statistics doesn't match up to what they would necessarily be, you know, counted as doing better, I feel like individually bringing on those 2 new players has increased the level of structure that the rookies have had, and individually they're getting their foot in the door. But you're right, they're not able to close it out, and statistically they don't look better than they were stage 1.
And I was gonna say, like, to argue that is like, yes, you know, if you are bringing on that experience that's allowing your rookies to flourish and be successful, you should see better performance overall.
You should.
And even the win that they did find that was against Oxygen, winning 7-3, but that was also Oxygen's worst performance that we've seen so far. So it's really, is that saying much? That's just more Oxygen not playing the best to their abilities. So again, it really goes into, like, this is do or die at this situation. You need to be better on all fronts, no matter what excuse you want to make for yourself, no matter what excuse as a team you want to make. If you want to see a playoff spot, let alone Montreal, you need to be playing better here today.
The stats for stage 1 through these first couple of games, they were 31-41 with 1 win, and that was over Space Station. This stage, only 21 rounds won so far, and their 1 win was against OXG. So if you look at stage 1 to stage 2, to your point, they're really not performing better, even with players who are way more storied and have been to lands before. It's kind of weird to see.
I feel like the preparation that Los has had this stage is really good, and the one game that we saw that they won was like they stole it away from the other team.
Oh, snap.
So,
I mean, that's a crazy
snap.
pick, but I mean, we saw OXG
and Sonics.
OXG,
they just did this
play
last week, yeah.
And I think this is the same mentality of Los taking M80 to a map that's just about gunfights because it's still untested and kind of keeping M80 surprised. So I really like this pick from Los. I'm not going to lie. I really like the pick a lot.
What's interesting is because we've been covering Brazil and I've been watching a lot of Brazil, Brazil has done a really good job with figuring out this map or kind of just getting a good idea of how they want to play it. So I am curious if Los, and I'm going to be watching specifically, is if they do what Brazil has been doing in their respective league to see if they play it the same way versus that what we just saw with Sonics and Oxygen.
I'm curious if they will too, because we talked about Los playing like a North American team and not like a Brazilian team, so I'm wondering how much of that old Brazilian play style they're going to be able to channel on a map that, even if Brazil likes it a lot, NA's played it the one time and it went to overtime last week.
Yeah, if there's anything to take away from Lair is that the verticality is a very big factor on defense, and it's a way to avoid direct gunfights when you can use those floors, and especially on the attack, it's not so much to say as it's a map that you play outside to get. You can really get inside the map and go for those aggressive gunfights. I think against OXG and Sonics, we saw a lot of that, of an entry going in with a drone behind him. And if you're Los and you have Legacy, you have Farius, who have been doing very well at the rookie stage, you put some drones in front of them, I think it'll be a very good attempt from them. But at the end of the day, it's such a big map, it's really going to come down to who's more coordinated on that attack.
Well, what I do like about this map, like you were talking about, you know, being that one-off, pulling something out, is more so the fact where we've seen them struggle is, sure, the prep is good, they can get those initial 3 rounds, but then once a team figures them out, then they just fall flat. But with a map like Lair, where neither of these teams have seen each other yet, at least in terms of play day, maybe they've scrimmed each other, who knows, but it does leave that window of opportunity of, okay, you can switch things up. The team's not going to be so quick to adapt, where you've already seen someone do something on a consulate or a club or something like that. So I do think that does play a little bit into their favor. But again, for M80, if we can see a stronger M80 and see consistency of teamwork and improvement, this should be a very good map for M80, again, if those key factors are there.
The thing is, the conversation for when Sonics and Oxygen played it was that if Oxygen are trying to do something crazy and not play a map that everybody knows, maybe it makes the map a little bit more even between both of them. Does the same thing apply here for Los, going to a map that the league just hasn't seen very much?
Of course, because when you take the element of unknown out of it and you're able to just go on a map that's untested against a team that could do anything, because Los doesn't really have a specific playstyle that they want to address to. It's all in M80's hands, not to fumble it, not to get lost in the rabbit hole of trying to chase Los down this win. M80 just has to play their game. I think this is going to be a really good test for M80.
No, I agree with everything Fox just said. I think that single-handedly plays a very big favor into Los, but again, it's really just going to come down to those IGLs and how those attack rounds are really going to look.
All right, well, let's do this thing. M80 need points in order to keep a playoff berth. Los need any points at all to have any shot at the bracket. The stakes are very simple, but the game will be anything but. Jesse Chick and Parker Mackay have their very first North American Lair game up on deck.
Thank you very much. We got Lair yesterday, actually, in Brazil. So a fun little quirk here, Jesse. 3 of the 4 teams that will have casted on Lair are Brazilian, despite them being in 2 separate regions. Yesterday, it was E1 showing why they are so formidable on this map. But in North America, will it be Los who carries on their country's success on this map? Or will the import team of M80 manage to topple them? There's a lot at stake here, obviously. Los finds themselves in the basement of North America, only 1 point out of last place, whereas M80 is in that log jam right now in the middle. They've got a bit of breathing room over Luminosity and Wildcard, so it is very unlikely, if not impossible, for M80 to fall out of the playoffs today. You and I were actually discussing this before we got into the match. If everything goes right, it is possible to actually clinch almost every single playoff spot today, but I think what did you say? It involves Los losing like 7-0 or something like that? I mean, you're the numbers guy.
I haven't run it 100%. Sprbunny is usually the one who will lock that down guaranteed. From what I have seen, it looks likely that it is technically possible. Realistically, it shouldn't happen. Los will need to get absolutely destroyed here because they are the closest of the teams that still have 3 games remaining. Of course, Wildcard is above them in the standings, but Wildcard don't play tomorrow. So that's a huge disadvantage for Wildcard trying to make it into that playoff spot. But we'll jump right into it. Los, of course, still hopeful for that playoff spot. Still plenty to play for if they can get a dominating win here on Rainbow Six Siege's newest map, and that could be extremely successful. We've got the bans coming through now, and it's really hard to predict bans simply because we've not seen either of these teams play these maps. I will say the Blitz ban from M80 may be more of a self-ban than anything else. Currently, Kino has played more Blitz than nearly every other player inside of North America, but his win rate is only 12% with that operator. He's only won a single round with Blitz so far. So clearly they don't think it's a very good operator for them. They'll remove it. Dokkaebi, Valkyrie, Azami, the other 3 operators getting banned out. Azami incredibly popular to be banned out. Dokkaebi incredibly popular to ban out. Valkyrie as well. Nothing out of the ordinary coming through from this game.
The only thing that does stand out is we are seeing fewer Monty bans across all regions.
Yeah.
Blitz's ban rate is starting to tick up. Prior to this matchup, Blitz was the 4th most banned attacker, trailing Monty in first, then Dokkaebi, and then Ying. Blitz will inch up by 1. Dokkaebi will also inch up by 1, but Azami and Valkyrie are the 2 most banned defenders, and it's not close for Azami. Valkyrie has good company with Tubarão not far off, but on a map like Lair, there are some quirks to this map that make operators like Valkyrie and other intel operators oh so valuable. Number 1, it is a gigantic map. This is the biggest map in the map pool. There are tons of ways to approach the bomb sites. You often will need to clear out both the top floor and the bottom floor and then have somebody on flank at almost all times. If you've watched this map get played in Europe and in Brazil, as we have, then you know that flanks happen quite frequently, and teams need full map coverage, as the defenders will, like so many other maps, extend outwards from these bomb sites. An operator like Valkyrie allows you to gain a lot of control over those peripherals, those periphery areas before you get into the actual bomb site, because a Valkyrie camera hidden amongst debris or in a tricky spot is very challenging to find, and it will often necessitate an IQ from the attackers, or maybe a Twitch, or even Thatcher/EMPs, as those can counter them inadvertently. As you can see, though, with Valkyrie banned out, you don't need to worry about that, and it will force these teams to run a normal lineup. They don't need to bring an IQ. It takes a little bit of time to actually get to the map itself, but already some hard destruction being done by Cameraman's Ace.
Yeah, so really interesting from Los right off the bat. They've gone to bunks and briefing, which is a very good sight on this map for sure, but it's often not the first one that gets played from most teams that we've seen. And they've actually brought a really interesting castle strategy where they've blocked off kind of the south part of the top floor, bathroom, server, those rooms, to make sure that they can't make an entry on the side of M80, at least not without expending quite a few resources. So holding onto this top floor is vitally important for this bomb site. You can deny, I believe, every single plant from above. So it's incredibly important for these two teams to be fighting over the top floor. And M80 will start to make their entry point as they come in through both operations and mask. They need to get some kills on these top 4 players.
Legacy is holding down the fort, but he has a way out if he needs to. And well, that'll be the first engagement. On to cameraman. Legacy has been the standout performer for Los so far. Both Los will find that there's 2 players that can get in on the action, Legacy and also Arthur. Hyper and Spoit are the last 2 remaining, and heading back to the bomb site is none other than Arthur as Spoit gets punished by Sexy Cake. Hyper all on his own, and he sees Wizard. He sees the hat of the Malusi, but can't get the kill done. And that's it for M80. Los keeping up that Brazilian dominance on this map.
Yeah, nice to see Arthur starting off with a really good couple of frags. You know, he never was like a top fragger back when he was on E1. He was -9 in Brazil throughout stage 1. Not a great performance, but not bad. Right now, he's sitting at the worst KD ratio in all of North America. He's -23 coming into this game. So starting off with a quick 2K there and some important kills as well. Taking down Kino on the Monty with a nice shot is really important. And if Arthur can get going, that really seems to be what could start things strong for Los. You know, this is a team that has obviously struggled throughout the stage. They've struggled throughout their entire season inside of North America. But if some of those players that have not been the highest performers can start stepping it up and start taking it to M80, especially with these really cool lair strats that 1 round in, Los seem to be very proficient with, then we could get a really good game on our hands here, Parker.
Already a technical pause, though. We don't really know exactly what's going on. We'll update you when we have information, but I mean, it's some time for these teams to sit back, kick back, and we enjoy all of the different scenes of Lair, a map that lore-wise is Deimos's map. You can see he even has his own room where he very inconspicuously has designed it to look exactly like him with his mask on the back of it. I believe the actual room as well on the map is there's a room called the Rainbow Room, the Rainbow 6 room.
Yes.
If I remember, which is...
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's a beautiful map. It is, like I said, it is gigantic, and I find it is very maze-like. A lot of what I'm going to say on this broadcast was already said yesterday on the Brazil broadcast in the E1 versus FaZe matchup. But people don't always watch it all. So, I mean, you've got to, we sometimes have to repeat ourselves. It is a very labyrinthian map. There are lots of very small rooms. It's reminiscent of the old Hereford base when it was in ranked, and also it reminds me an awful lot of Theme Park before it was reworked, where you would enter the haunted house portion and you'd have about 6 or 7 different rooms to cut through before you actually got to the bomb site. A map that actually I think is quite similar in that way is actually Tower. I know that it's not a competitive map and people would soon forget that Tower even exists. But if you play Tower, the amount of small room into small room into small room into small room that you have to navigate is quite high, and Lair is in a very similar boat to that. But in terms of the actual numbers of this map, 14 rounds. It's been played 1 time, and would you guess it was defender favored? We tend to see this, Jesse, with all new maps. It would not surprise me in the slightest if the defenders, Los for the first 6 rounds, then M80 for the next X amount of rounds required, will be in a very favorable spot just because most new maps are easier to figure out on defense and much harder to solve for the attackers.
And I think that's extra true when a team comes into a map with extra strategies. You know, the first couple of times a map gets played at a tier 1 level, which was in both Brazil and Europe. Then once the map is played, really get creative. And I think that's what we saw from Los in the previous round, using those castle barricades to really make a strong fortress up on that top floor that M80 struggled to attack. If Los keep throwing curveballs, if they keep bringing out these defenses, which we've really not seen any other team ever run before, because the sample size is so low globally, then that's going to really make things tougher for M80, and it might really make them struggle on these attacking rounds. And that's extra good for Los, because Los right now have a horrendous defensive win rate inside the North American League. They are actually, and this is going to be a crazy stat, the best team on attack in all of North America. They have won a higher percentage of attacking rounds than any other team. Beast Coast, Sonics, Dark Zero, doesn't matter. All of them are worse when it comes to the attacks. But on their defense, it's been so bad that they've struggled to win a map so far inside of NA. They're 1 win, of course, and 4 losses at the moment. So definitely something to watch out for Los. If they start off with a lead, they could really steamroll and get a big win over M80 here today. But for now, getting a bit ahead of myself in this round. We've got a little bit of a spawn peek that was attempted by the Boss G being held by Farius. Doesn't actually come into fruition, though.
Had some disconnects, so the players are back in. I don't know who actually disconnected, though, because it looks like everybody's stats are good.
As long as there was no rehost and the round didn't play, I believe all stats are preserved, so not sure who it was, but
that is amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's very nice.
Very, very nice. Lots of explosive potential being brought by M80. Citizen is on the Montaigne, not Kino. They have taken him off of shield duty.
Wow,
Jesse.
yeah.
And now he is on the Ying. Ying, Finka, Grim, Monty. This is an obnoxious lineup to deal with. Candles will go out on the roam clear as Kino looks to take up some position, but can't really get it done. M80 finds 2 quick kills. Arthur with another round where he gets on the board, but only a single kill will be found for him as he's finished off. Cameraman dies to Farius, and Sexy Cake is traded off by Kino. Right now, M80 with the advantage in terms of these picks. I do worry a little bit about Farius. He has the Boss G ACOG, which is usually good for the roam and early round, but you'll have to rely an awful lot on that SMG as your secondary to do most of the damage. Both he and Legacy very conveniently will have the same SMG-12 being used. All the while this is happening, M80 have plenty of time with about a minute to go to begin their advance towards the bomb site.
Yeah, they're going to want to get some kind of a plant down inside of Mask, it seems. They don't have much hard breach. They only brought 2 can openers, one of which was just used on the ops wall. So the other one will probably be used on the Mask wall. In fact, it will be. So Kino's going to open this, and they're going to try to plant just inside of it. They've got no plant denial on the side of Los, so they're going to have to swing to stop this plant.
Farius looks for a single pick. You know how much damage this does. Cross will go over, and the Ying will pop on in. Kino wins it, and Spoit with the follow-up kill. And just like that, M80 answers back.
Nice little 3K on the round for Spoit with 69 kills. He does lead the North American League for the most kills of any individual player. And a solid round from M80 where they really do get in and isolate those early round picks. Spoit coming in from, I'm not exactly sure where he entered. It might have been, I think it was bottom lobby actually. Walked up those lobby stairs towards mezzanine. Was able to find a couple of kills to start that round off. I believe with the help of Citizen on the Monty as well. So nice to see that early man advantage. And then as I mentioned, with no real plant denial, they had a couple of impacts, but no reliable plant denial like a C4, like Toxic Babes. They do that. They went with the advantage of the gunfight. Their shot, but the timing just right there for Farius. Couldn't quite find the timing to get the Boss G kill. So unfortunate for him, and Lothland losing that second round time.
10 seconds from insertion.
What is he doing?
I want the enemy team to know that there is a clash, and that will bait them into bringing a Monty. Clash, one of the best Monty counters in the game. I think M80 have just fallen into the trap that Los have set.
Aha, but did you expect that it would be Kino on the Monty?
Okay, I will say Kino's win rate on Blitz this season is horrendous. It's the worst in the entire league outside of players that have never won it. But his Monty win rate's all right. He's 50%, 2 wins, 2 losses on this operator, so it's not a bad stat line. Don't worry about the historical stats. Sometimes he's had his blunders, but I believe in Kino, okay? He's 2-1. He's had a good game so far. I'm going to give him some trust in this Monty play.
It's the bottom floor defense now as first floor went in favor of Los. Function briefing, and then the top floor, that Rainbow 6 room, by the way, that I had mentioned, was just the scene previously. So all 3 floors of this map will get played, and it will give us a window into how they go about defending these positions. I really like the tools being brought by the defenders.
Yeah, I really like this Deimos track onto the Scopos. You see that Citizen is tracking the one and only roamer of Farius. Had they not done that, they could have risked misdroning him. It's very hard to drone players out on Lair. The map is so large that it can be very difficult to find these roamers. It is a full anchor strategy, but the great thing about our newest operator, Scopos, is that you can both kind of roam and anchor at the same time. Had they not been able to drone out Scopos, find where that first player was, they might have misdroned, and that could have enabled a big flank to come through from Farius. Instead, they will use the Deimos track, they will find the clone, Farius goes back to site, and they deal with that secondary robot up on the top floor. So nice little play from M80 Citizen, just one simple track and then a clean kill will give them full top floor control. They've now got a ram, they've got breaching charges on the ace, they've got everything in their power to go for a full top down execute. Again, the vertical play on this basement, as the desk mentioned, is incredibly important. So presumably with all the space that they have and all the time that they have, they can go for a plant here, but easier said than done.
Down the stairs, they will go together. Monty coming face to face with his arch nemesis of the Clash. Arthur, well acquainted with shields. And now it's Sexy Cake far enough back trying to do some damage. You've lost the Clash now. Spoit finishing off what remained of the shield. M80 yet to lose a player. Cameraman on the board takes out Wizard. More fire going in towards the outside of this bomb site. They're just right now hunkered down on the stairs. Kino attracting all of the attention. It's Citizen to take out Farius. Los having some serious issues as they've lost every single player. If Legacy can clutch this, it would be quite the occasion. He starts with one pick, but he'll be outdueled by Kino, who has a terrific round on the Monty. Nothing bad to really say about Kino there. M80, 2 in a row.
Nothing bad to say about the Monty, so if you'll allow me, that Clash play was not ideal. I don't even really blame Arthur. It was Sexy Cake behind him who wasn't really able to support the Clash in any way, shape, or form. Once you've given up that full top floor control, the push is obviously going to come in through filtration. It was a very, I think, default top-down execute from M80 where they hit all their steps. They didn't struggle with anything in particular. The big thing that should have been the problem was that Clash. But Kino simply walked up, meleeed, and moved that shield out of the way. Now that's always going to happen because the Clash doesn't have a rotate back to the bomb site where Arthur was playing, but Sexy Cake was behind the Clash. Sexy Cake was back in connector and should have been able to try to work a pick. If he was a little bit more aggressive, things could have worked out, but despite his best efforts, didn't manage to hit those shots, didn't manage to equalize the man count with that Clash going down. And it's starting to look like a bit of a Spoit show. 5-1 as we finish the first quarter of the game. If there's one thing you don't want to do is let one of the best players in the world in Spoit get confident.
You know what happens when you let Spoit and Citizen do crazy things, right? And then you add Hyper on M80 just to increase fragging power. Kino holding his own in terms of kills, but you expect Kino and Cameraman to be towards the bottom of M80. As long as Spoit and Citizen can do their thing, M80 does tend to find a lot of success, irrespective of their opponent, irrespective of the map, and irrespective of the meta. Both of these players have been able to prove themselves. Citizen obviously doing it on G2. He started doing it on Na'Vi, and then he goes to G2, and then he goes over to Sonics, and now here he is on M80. With Spoit, there hasn't really been as much of a jostle around these teams. He won a major with Rogue, and that became Koi, and now here he is on M80, and Spoit is living up to the billing time and time again. Fourth round! M80 looking to ensure that they cannot lose the first half if they take this round. 3-1, excellently done, and it will once again be spearheaded by Kino on that Monty.
Once again, top floor clear is going to be vital, as it often is on Lair. Even though the bomb site's not up here in this round, you do need to take top floor control. There's no castle being brought this time from Los, so it's a bit of a different setup. Trying to just throw as many curveballs as you can at M80. Just make this difficult. But as it often is, it'll be do or die up here. They want to fight their lives up on the top floor. Wizard is ready to take a gunfight. Sexy Cake as well. Interesting that there are still 2 players, Arthur and Farius, that are down more towards the site, but expect them to either be playing with C4s in the case of Arthur or getting ready to go for a rotate up those lobby stairs, because it's vital to get a man advantage on the top here.
Loading mag.
Hear that shield battling with whatever barbed wire might be there. It is so peculiar to see an Ella on the board, but if you have to worry about shields, actually the Gishmat mines are an excellent way to deal with that. Citizen and Farius, though, will do battle, and Citizen somehow loses that engagement. Farius probably shouldn't have walked away in the correct direction. Sexcake dies to Hyper. Hyper picks up yet another. And the more people die, the better Kino will do on that Monty. Now it's Cameraman and Spoit getting in on the action, and it's 2 from Spoit to end the round. Loss collapsing like a house of cards in a tornado. M80 has made such brisk work of the last 3 rounds. I genuinely do not know what Los can do to fix these issues.
Yeah, this is starting to get kind of bad. That was the one bomb set you'd previously won. I assume this is a tactical timeout. Yes, it is. Lowe's going to call that, try to stem the bleeding. Again, with a new map, not even Lab's Lair, you expect it to be somewhat defender-sided right off the bat. M80 have really presented this problem with the Monty. It's been Kino on the Monty time and time again. I really like that M80 are now moving away from the Blitz and more towards the Monty. They knew they would be going up against a team like Los today. Los are also a very heavy shield team, right? Sometimes M80 enter into a game and they're like, we're a little bit worried. Our Monty's going to get banned. We're going to be forced onto Blitz. Not with Los. Arthur loves the shields. Los love their shields. They knew that this was going to be a shield heavy game. They said, okay, we'll keep our stronger shield, the Monty, and we'll remove that other shield that we have a very poor win rate with. And I think that's really been making the difference for M80. It's given them a ton of space as they enter in through this top floor. That round, we saw Hyper performing. We saw Spoit continue to perform. All the fraggers that we want to see on M80 are showing up and they're getting those kills, but a lot of it is being enabled by that shield play. So really nice stuff coming out from M80. The question is, what do you respond with from Los? You have time and time again not seemingly been able to find an answer. They're just going to decide to go to the basement for round number 5. They do not have the Clash anymore, but it seems like a similar setup regardless. You've got the Scopos, you've got the Kaid, you've got a lot of the same operators that you had last time. So it seems like the game plan is relatively similar, but how do they get around Kino on the mountain?
Nice little quirk of calling him that. For people who don't know French, obviously it means the mountain. As for Los, though, you change things up fully. You're going with a similar composition to what we have seen over the second and third rounds combined. The Kaid, the Vigil, the Scopos, the Malusi as well. The Kapkan is a new one, though. First time that we're seeing this operator get brought. And Los is very clearly tailoring their lineup to deal with the Monty. First, it was the Clash to try to bait out the Monty. Did not work. Then they brought the Ella with the Gishmat mines potentially to deal with a Monty. If you know which way the Monty is coming in, it also did not work. Now, what do? You bring a Kapkan to potentially slow down the Monty too. Legion was brought by Los all the way back in round number 1, but did obviously not have as much success as they had hoped for, though that was the only round that Los won. There's been a Monty present for every single round so far for M80. Farius dies very early on. That's the Scopos picked off, so that is a devastating loss for Los.
Yep, that leaves just Sexy Cake up here on the roam. Boss G in hands, of course. Playing the Vigil has tools to avoid the drones, but all it's going to take is one quick scan with the Deimos. If they've seen him even once, they haven't. So they don't necessarily know that there's a Vigil up here unless they've seen the static. But Kino also is playing as if they know, and yeah, it's pretty clear. They're aware of the position. One impact goes out, deals very little damage to Kino. Those getting nerfed not too long ago don't deal very much damage to shields anymore, so Sexy Cake will get punished. Yes, Spoit in the hallway. Just saw him around the corner inside of Medical. A 2-man clear as they lose 0 bodies and not even that much time on M80. You're going to need to do something desperate on the side of Los if you don't want to lose the round. It's got to be a big C4 or a big flank. Otherwise, 5v3, this isn't holdable.
9 kills so far for Los through what's about to be 5 rounds. You do the math on that one. That's fewer than an average of 2 kills a round. That is terrible for Los. Just very, very bad for them. And I do always wonder when this map shows up, as I wondered yesterday when we watched Brazil, why teams opt to go to Lair in a best-of-1 situation. Usually in a best-of-3, yeah, I could see Lair potentially popping up based on a team's interest in going to the map and depending on how the map bans actually play out. But in a best-of-1, the presumption is that you're going to a map that is good for both teams. Yesterday, it did not look like FaZe Clan had any idea how to deal with this map. Right now, it's a defender-sided map. Los obviously don't exactly have the best results on defense, but like, come on, you should at least be able to have more fight than what you're putting up. The round is far from over though, 30 seconds remain. Monty will breathe down the neck of Wizards Kaid. Spoit creeping in with 8 kills, and he could pounce from the back. Missing an opportunity, there goes the Nitro Cell. It doesn't claim either player. Legacy is the last one remaining. This is about to be a flawless round for M80, and it gets done. 9 kills for Los over 5 rounds. 9 kills. That's it. That's not even good enough to win 2 rounds. And they've already won a round. So 5 of those kills should have come in a single round. That means since then you're averaging a single kill a round on the side of Los. They've already called their timeout. We have another tech pause issue, but M80 is sweeping through this Los team.
It was a cool little Kaid trick from Wizard. They managed to stop the filtration wall from opening, but if there's one operator that doesn't care about having to funnel through a small number of entryways, it's Monty. Kino walks in the doorway anyways. Not having the breach does not end up being that big of a deal. It's not really a problem. M80 don't care too much. Again, like, I just think in the 3v5, Los had to do something. And what did they do? They sat in sight. They didn't really use their C4s until way later, once the Monty was already up in their faces. There was no vertical C4 coming out. There was no flank that was coming out. I don't know how they expected to win that round in a 4v5. They really relied on their roamers getting something done in that round. But as soon as Farius went down, as soon as Sexy Cake went down afterwards, those anchors had to do something, and there just didn't seem to be any initiative coming on through. There's no real obstacles being presented to stop M80 from executing their game plan. Both times they attacked on the basement, they did the same thing. They full cleared top floor. They pushed filtration with the Monty. It's not particularly new. It's not innovative. It shouldn't be surprising to Los. It's a great push. Not saying it's bad, but it's like you're not rewriting anything crazy, right? M80 are just going for basic Monty full clears, and that's something that Los should have an idea of how to counter. You know, maybe they were just thinking, okay, our roamers are going to crush. Farius, yeah, prior to that round, he's 1-4 or 2-4. Sexy Cake, prior to that round, he's 1-3. But we have faith in them to be able to get these opening picks and give us a man advantage. Fine, like, that's an okay strat, but once they don't do that, there needs to be a backup. There was no backup from Los here, and now they're down 4-1.
Another tech pause. Hopefully we don't have too many of these today. We were actually very fortunate in the Brazil broadcast yesterday to not have the broadcast slowed down by tech issues. But I mean, the most recent patch that came out has unfortunately introduced some issues that has been plaguing these teams and plaguing this league. So we apologize for the delay and really appreciate everybody's patience. Is this good or is this bad for M80, by the way? Do you think? Is this good for them, or do you think it doesn't help them in the slightest that there is a bit of a brief pause that could dull their momentum?
I mean, I think for M80, they're not really going to be affected. They're in high spirits. They're winning their rounds. They know pretty much which bomb site they're going to go to. There's actually a lot of options for Los, but if they're following a standard 3-3 site rotation, then they will be going top floor, and in fact, that's where we are. So I don't think M80 are going to get too affected by a pause like that. For me, it's really on Los, you know? In one hand, they could get affected positively by a tech pause by being able to, they can't communicate obviously, but think amongst themselves and strategize and try to figure out what's going wrong individually and then have a bounce back. On the other hand, if you're a more mental team, if you get a little bit more tilted when things are going wrong, that's more time to stew, more time to sit in this problem that you're currently in and just reflect on your inability to dig yourself out of this hole. I hope for Los's sake that they have been able to strategize a little bit amongst themselves and of course in their own heads about how to get past this roadblock of M80. They will go to the top floor bomb site. They will try to play it around with some smoke and some bandits, keep the walls closed, but really it is going to be all on Los to stand strong with these gunfights and not let M80 do exactly what they want completely for free.
Really hasn't been much that slowed them down at all. The numbers for Los are quite poor. Legacy of all players is the one that Los has relied upon this Sage, and he's at 2-4 at the moment. Admittedly, it's somebody else on the team dying first most of the time, and it puts Legacy in a very tough to win position.
Yeah.
Gotta hand it to Los for making Kino look like one of the best Monties in the world. I have so many fond memories of Nick just losing his mind over watching how Kino would approach these maps. He's been much better though, but he's also got a good supporting cast this time around.
Oh, absolutely. I think Kino's been great this game and has had other strong Monty games in the past, but of course, hasn't always been the best operator for him. Sticks with it though. This is an interesting way to enter through lobby, by the way. Sploit with smoke grenades on the glass. Actually, hasn't used a smoke grenade yet. Here will come out the first smoke. I will question if anybody will actually fight this. There's nobody on the main floor, so he has to be looking up towards the mezzanine stairs. They've got a nuke down here as well in the hands of Citizen. So it's a really interesting push from M80 where they've got a couple of players down below. It's not dissimilar to how they pushed this bomb site last time, but the tools they're using are certainly intriguing. As that first smoke, no, that's a Toxic Babe I'm hearing. Still 0 of these smoke nades being used. And I think Arthur is kind of aware of the situation. He doesn't want to give up his life for free. And finally the smoke grenades come out and Sploit will try to push.
Smokes and gas all in the same position, and oh my! Sploit moved a little bit too quickly for that one. Legacy is prepared and waiting. They both could see through the smoke, but ultimately it's the Warden who comes out ahead, and yet another target could line up here. Multiple silhouettes from Los. Up at the top, Kino tearing through them. Legacy and Arthur weren't expecting that one. Hyper now in as well. Sexy Cake on the full offensive. Nitro Cell goes out. Kino tries to stop it. He's dropped. Wizard at full HP. He and Sexy Cake just trying to hold out. Getting Kino back up so that they can grab the diffuser. Have some safety. That's the real win condition here. Sexy Cake will army crawl his way over. I don't know if he has what it takes. Wizard's turn now. And he confronts the Monty. No way for him to be able to pick up Sexy Cake. And now he's blocked out of the room. Oh my goodness. What do you do in this position? No! How does cameraman TK Kino? That might have just created an opening for Los. Wizard on the diffuser. Cameraman has to hurry and get over there. Wizard might be able to pull this one off. It's going to be mighty close. But cameraman seals the deal. Cameraman almost blew up that round for M80. And I can't tell if it's frustration. It certainly looks like it.
Oh boy.
That could have been a disaster, Jesse.
Almost some revenge. The former captain of Los from last year, cameraman. You wonder if he may be a double agent in that round, but no, he does clutch it out. He wins the 1v1 despite making it so much harder on himself. A great round from Kino. 2 kills with the pistol while they're walking in and trying to make that execute happen. Does get down by the C4, but is picked up.
Did you see what happened there?
I was honestly looking at my stats. What happened?
So he shot the downed Sexy Cake.
Right.
But Sexy Cake, he shot 2 bullets. The first bullet killed Sexy Cake. The second bullet hit Kino in the back of the leg, and because Kino was at 20 HP and had already been picked back up, he couldn't go into down but not out. And the bullet does more than 20 damage. So he shot the downed body, assuming that he would be able to secure Sexy Cake, and instead of just killing Sexy Cake, that second bullet hit the back of the Monty. Hold on a second here.
Yeah.
Look at this Los lineup. There is, unironically, there is a Blackbeard being played alongside an Amaru and a Monty. What are we about to witness?
All right, they've clearly been cooking on this map. Will they burn down the kitchen? That is the question. Blackbeard was played once so far in the North American League. It was not successful. So it's going to go for round 2 now in the hands of Sexy Cake. Again, hoping to try to get an execute. This will be a direct push. No more are we in the world of roam clearing on this bomb site. No more are we working vertical. They are walking on in trying to get kills.
Looking for the first pick. There's a Toxic Babe that goes out. Sexy Cake losing the shield. No time to re-equip. So instead, he's just got to fight dry, but he dies to Kino's shotgun. Kino's still surviving, but maybe on borrowed time, given how low his HP is. Arthur's getting the diffuser down. Cameraman rushing up. He shuts it down. Wait, no, he doesn't at all. It's Los to actually turn this one around, and now the shield is still very much in play. Arthur's last man standing, and M80 managed to survive the scare. Legacy is dropped. What a play by Los. They'll be able to secure that final kill on the Legacy if they want. Hold on, get him up. Maximize your points. You got plenty of time. Okay. There you go. Now you've got it. What?
Pad
All
those
right.
stats. Pad those stats. There you go, Kino. 8-2 now.
Vendors have disabled the bomb.
That's the clap for the way that was played out. My God. I
Yeah.
loved what Los tried to do there. They just straight hit the bomb site. Obviously, when you're playing that Blackbeard and you're just engaging on a single door frame, the moment you lose that rifle shield, it's basically over. You have no real means of re-equipping that, especially when the gas is all around you. Didn't you say that we needed like a 7-0 to lock in these points? Well, we are mighty close to that. It is a 6-1 at the moment.
I will let people smarter than myself run the numbers if a 7-1 would be enough to... there are other results. It wouldn't just be this one that would lock Los out of playoffs, but still, even with this result, Los not looking good. They've lost 6 rounds in a row now. Genuinely confused as to what happened in that round. They tried to rush. They saw it was a 3-man roam from M80. They said, that's fine. We're going to hit the site. And it nearly worked. I think if they get a clean kill into Kino, if they were playing, I don't know, maybe a Blitz, it was banned. Maybe just like a Ying, maybe some operator that can run in and win a fight against a Smoke. Not an easy thing to do, but certainly might have been easier on an operator not named Blackbeard. That could have gotten them the entry that they needed. It felt like a lot of players ended up going down on the blue stairs by filtration. The roamers came back to site very quickly. I gotta credit Spoit and Hyper for making it back so soon. Citizen as well, although I think he did go down. You know, M80 reacted very, very well to that rush strategy. Kino stood very strong there, of course, stopping that push in through supplies. So nicely done by M80. Los, I don't mind them trying to get active, trying to get creative. Again, it's a new map. They're in a desperate situation. You may as well go for something like that, but just not executed the way that they would want to. And now they've got to win 5 rounds in a row just to get overtime, and they're attacking on the newest map in the pool. This is just not going to be an easy task.
No, I mean, I did really like their start, but you can't obviously replicate that. You've got one go for broke strat to try to get to the bomb site and get that diffuser down, but now you're going to go with a much easier lineup. You got Striker for maximum utility. You've got flashes and grenades in the hand of the recruit. You've got plenty of explosive potential from the Flores. Ying, as she is seen quite regularly on all maps when she is unbanned just because of the power that she brings. You've got smokes and those Candelas. And then, of course, you got the Monty for added measure. You got to cut through that barbed wire. You don't have to deal with any Banshees from the Malusi, so nothing to really slow you down. The only real hindrance that a Monty will have at this point is going to be those goo mines from Cameraman. Cameraman is usually pretty successful at living till the very final moments. As long as he can stay alive, he will be A-okay. An opportunity to take out Kino has disappeared as he will be picked back up. That was an inopportune peek around the window. And even though they're not in the building, that was a nice pick from Los to do an awful lot of damage. Kino will once again be on borrowed time.
Yeah, gotta watch out. Make sure you can avoid Cameraman for the rest of this round. The shield's coming on in, and Farius takes down Hyper, so that's the opening pick. They start to work their way more towards site. It will be an R6 room execute. Sexy Cake has the defuse kit, and is bombarded by throwable utility. A Toxic Babe forces him into the line of the C4, and he does die, dropping the kit. Picked up by Farius now as he starts to head more towards site, but he also will lose all of his teammates as he is now in a 1v4 very quickly. Things have devolved, and they know exactly where Farius is at. Hiding inside of storage as the GG is coming out. Oh no, the belief not there from M80 that this is a losable game anymore. Players on lows holding their tongue, but it doesn't last long. Finally, the shotgun reigns, and M80 get a 7-1 victory over Los. A very well-deserved win, as that will catapult them up on these standings.
Yeah, my. 3 points and 3 very quick points, which have significantly reduced the amount of time that we are going to have to cast today. We expect about an hour per match. You and I have only been casting for 33 minutes, and that includes 2 tech issues, which is probably the most surprising part of it all. M80 was in a position where they were 3 points ahead of Luminosity. If M80 had lost, if Los had picked up all 3 points and Luminosity won, depending on round differential, M80 could have fallen down to 6th place. No way for them to go to 7. But either way, that's it for our very first matchup. We've got plenty more to come here in the NAL.
10 seconds.
Absolute BM from M80 in that matchup, and what was an absolute cataclysm in the Los camp. There is now a scenario on the board in which Los may be knocked out of playoffs entirely as a result of this loss and another game that happens on later in the day. So now, if you're any Brazilian fan hoping that your team's going to be able to go far in the NAL playoffs, that game may have just been the nail in the coffin.
Well, a Brazilian, half Brazilian team got a win today, so
yeah,
you gotta be happy
fine.
about for Cameraman and Kino.
Fine.
I was really hoping that, truthfully, that we'd see a little something different. You know, we were talking about how this should be a good map for Los just based off the unpredictability. I mean, they look very predictable at that point.
They started on defense first.
Yeah,
and that was the problem.
That obviously
they started on defense.
was more so the bigger issue, given how bad they are. I mean, this was really bad. This wasn't just bad. This was flawlessly bad.
Yeah, it didn't really look like they had an understanding of how they wanted to defend the map at all. There wasn't really any trades. The verticality, you know, the unique stuff that we saw OXG do in their Lair matchup is not what we saw Los do. Los really kind of just showed up, was just playing their game, maybe a little like ranky kind of vibes. And, you know, M80 to their props, I think they actually played really well, especially the way that they were clearing, the way that they used the Monty was really good. For the first time in history, I think M80 has used the Monty as best as possible. I really enjoyed watching Kino on that Monty. The way they played around him was phenomenal as well. It was really, really well played Lair from them.
And again, you know, wipe everyone else's stats. Look at the highest impact. That's coming from Kino because, again, historically, this was the best performance that we've seen out of a Shield play from Kino. So, again, it's a hats off to Kino for being able to make this 7-1 possible, specifically, again, because of Kino actually making the Shield work.
I mean, you could have put Kino in a 1-on-5. I think M80 still would have won.
That might be a little bit of a stretch, but I mean,
that's just harsh, man.
Nonetheless,
I just hurts to hear.
I'm hoping he can hear it, but pure dominance. I mean, from M80 across the board. But this is the team play that I wanted to see. Obviously, this was against a very poor performance from Los overall. I mean, this is the first 7-1 that we've seen so far. Unfortunately, it took all the way to Playday 7. We could have seen it Playday 6, 5, 3, 2, 1
I want to
down
see
the
how
board,
did that happen.
but finally we see it here now. But I mean, again, M80, we need to see this performance going forward. I don't want to just write this off as like, okay, you know, this was a great game.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's going to happen next. We need to see the consistency because what we've seen M80 do is do really good and then go back to being bad. Go back to good, go back to being bad in just the basic fundamentals.
Yeah, and it came down to those maps and seeing Lair as a big map and them still find success on it. I mean, I think they're getting a really good understanding. They didn't allow any trades, like any individual 1v1s that wasn't traded. So I really liked the team play from them. They all focused on entering the map behind that Monty. There were sometimes 2 or 3 people behind it. They get that pick. I thought it was really well played. And if they take that fundamentals to the other bigger maps, it'll improve a lot more for M80.
You know Kino was doing good on the Monty too when Cameraman took him out. He's like, nah, you're doing too good.
True. Spoit was also a vertical demon. I think the times he was upstairs, AK-12, homie dropped 12 kills in a game that didn't have as many rounds as it takes to, I mean, even have a complete game, seemingly. So the fact that he still pulled off a double-digit kill marker is impressive enough. But put Kino on the interview chair for me real fast, because Lax over here is like, hey, this is the first time we've seen an M80 on Shields actually go well. So I want to get Kino's take on that because I remember what it was like earlier in the stage.
Kino's so mad.
And now we've seen what it's like now.
No,
Hey, it was good. It got better. We're happy for you. I'll let Laxing take the brunt of this because he's the one talking smack.
Well, Kino, obviously we did touch up on how well the Shield play was today. Unfortunately, Cameraman took you out because of how well you were playing on it. But no, I mean, going into this map, were you guys thinking prior that this is what the map was going to be? Or were you guys pretty much for certain that Lair was going to be the map of choice?
We had a few options. Like we knew Lair was definitely one of the best options we had, and we knew that they would take us to Lair if he came to it. So yeah, we were ready.
Was that like based off? I was gonna say, was that based off scrims or anything like that?
No, not scrims. Like it's just off their previous bans. We just knew that they had Lair based on like.
What was the reason for banning the Blitz? Just because Lax was saying, like, did you guys have info in scrims? What was the reason for the Blitz ban specifically?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't scrim them on this map. I don't think so. So it was more like we know that 60K loves the cheat, he loves the Blitz, and on this map, I don't really care about the Blitz. The Monty was up. I can do the same things I do with the Blitz. I can do it with the Monty, and we showed today. I mean, finally worked.
Yeah,
finally.
Well, and that's what I want to like praise you on, is because we touched up on before, like the shield play from you it isn't just on you. Your team just wasn't utilizing you. Whereas today it felt like everyone was working well with the shield, but also you working well with everyone based off that shield play. And kind of what was the big difference of today versus previous days of that?
I feel like it all just falls down onto the fundamentals. Our fundamentals today were good. We know that on our previous games that we lost, we pretty much just lost to ourselves. We were kind of lost, and just practice makes it perfect, you know. I feel like we've been scrimming a lot. We've been getting some good practice, and we're just focusing on the small things, the fundamentals, and it's been working out for us. But don't say everyone played well with the Monty. Cameraman TK'd me. I really hope they showed my face because that was insane. Unlosable round.
They showed more of cameraman's overall reaction to just the fact that whoever was on case got off case at the very last second. But from our perspective, we saw it. He wasn't even aiming for you and still shot you in the foot because you were still on 20 HP at that point. What's going through your head at the end of round 6?
I don't even know, man. Like, the round was scuffed at first. I walked down top mez, got 2 kills, brought the round back.
Yeah.
Round is unlosable, bumped down. I'm blocking the door as Pengu taught me, you know, and just shot me in the back.
Well, just know it wasn't intentional.
Again, he wasn't
so
trying. I
confused.
swear to God on the replay, he absolutely wasn't trying.
I was so confused.
Yeah. There were only 2 rounds where you had to worry about playing on defense because that game was over so fast. But talk to me about when you see a Monty, an Amaru, and a Blackbeard on the board. Like, what do you even do to prep for that? Like, when you see that, do you laugh or do you just like hope and pray that you have the right setup for it?
Well, you do both. You laugh and you both and you hope you have a good comp for it. You know, I mean, I'm glad I was playing smoke where I was. I could, you know, smoke the door and ended up securing the round. But it was interesting.
Interesting is a word for it, yeah. So at this stage, there's only 1 game left for you to play on the docket. The win now puts you at 12 points, which is above the minimum threshold that teams required back in stage 1 to get into playoffs, which is a good omen for you guys. But there's only 1 game left. It's against DZ on Friday. Anything else? Any thoughts you have about that game while you have a day off tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, if we play the way we've been playing in practice, the way we played today, we know that we're capable of, you know, beating the best teams, beating Dark Zero, and we know we're capable of making it to playoffs and, you know, dominating the best of 3s. We know we have it in us. We just gotta, you know, find it, and slowly we're doing it.
Yeah, good stuff, buddy. Again, congratulations on the dub. We'll see you back on Friday, and thanks for putting up with our shenanigans on the desk here, dude.
I love Keenan.
Thanks, Chickum.
Really appreciate
Love
you.
you, Lax. Love you, Fox.
Love you.
Love you too.
All right, M80 again. I mean, they got past the first hurdle, which was just get points today. Like, they did that, but for it happened that quick. Like, dude, kudos to them for figuring out Los immediately.
Yeah, it was the consistency that we wanted to see. We talked about at the start that if they wanted to be the M80 that we expected them to be this stage, it can't be a close game against Los, and a close game it wasn't. So even on a map that you were unpredictable, you don't know what Los is going to bring, you don't even know what other teams, what the meta really is, they were able to find a lot of success, and they played off of each other, and that's been their biggest struggle in the previous game, so it was nice to see them correct that today.
Yeah, again, it was impressive to see the teamwork that they've lacked in some of these games where we could have seen a lot quicker pace games. So I do just want to see this going forward, especially into those playoff games.
Here is the situation that's now developed as a result of Los losing with no points from this matchup. You'll see Luminosity in 6th place with 6 points right now. That is one of the only thresholds that Los have the chance, with 2 games still left to play, to cross over to get to playoffs. If Luminosity get a full 3 points in Game 3 against Wildcard today, that puts them and every other possibility for Los out of reach, because Los can only get up to 9 points. So they could very well be locked out if Luminosity got all 3 points in regulation over Wildcard in just a couple of hours.
I mean, if Luminosity wins in any regard of getting 3 points, that just keeps 7th, 8th, 9th stagnant where they are. It doesn't matter where any of those teams shape up at that point. You just will be playing in LCQ for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, so Wildcard really needs to, beat them if they even want a chance to pass up there. And Los obviously has to, at the end of the day, win out and hope that LG loses out. So there's still a little bit of hope.
That's got to be the game of the day for me at that point, because
You think so?
Luminosity
LG
entirely
wildcard.
decides the bottom half's future and what that looks like.
We could be done with Super Week after like 1 day almost. Like we wouldn't even need the other ones because we already know, hey, you're getting shipped off to LCQ. Have fun playing in BO1s down there. But yeah, not to be. So we'll find out what happens in Game 3 between Wildcard and Luminosity. But before we get there, we have another one, Dark Zero and OXG, coming up right after the break.
Yeah, so BDS, I think it's like the #1 jersey I've seen like of esports, so I have to give it like 5 out of 5. It's really cool.
It's more a social, you know, or like classy. So I'll like BDS is my top 1. So 5.
And I think my favorite thing about the jersey you actually can't really see, but it's the Kappa logo on the border. I'm a big fan of casual esports apparel, like something you could wear out without like being like, wow, that guy's like a gamer, like, you know, something casual.
I'm gonna rank these all based on how they would look on me, and I don't know if a collar would really look cool on me. I think I look maybe look kind of goofy, so I'm gonna put that 3.
He's not wearing that jersey anymore, but the jersey itself looks good. I like how the silver reflects. It looks very cool. I think the SSG jersey is cooler. I rate this one a 2 out of 5. 2 out of 5.
0. He looks better in SSG.
I mean, that's also a really good jersey. Like I have wear it, like it feels good, you know, good material. 2 stars above the logo. Not that many other teams have that. I have to give it like 3 stars out of 5.
Okay, 5. I love this jersey. I would love to wear that. Like, I'd be cool in that jersey.
I also think it's really cool. Overall, also another simple design, black, great color. So I'm gonna give it a 3.8 out of 5.
This one could be a real slobber knocker of a game.
They've got to clear out that position. That one through the screen as Spirit pops the head.
Managing to close it out. Spirits must know that they're there. Manages to find the kill. 2v1 Frida is low health though.
Oh, take from Spirits in the 1 versus 1, holding onto the back of Spirits. They've traded places, but Frida has that one extra little bit to tie him.
Got you tulips in a twist. Hand up boss like communist. No, I can never ever get back all the things I missed. But I'm that man that think you got the gist. Got you tulips in a twist.